What's going on, guys? Welcome back, and thank you for coming and hanging out with us on a Friday instead of a Thursday for a little bit of an unannounced hangout. But man, I'm excited as always. I feel like I've missed weeks and weeks and weeks again, and I don't know. We're just a day off, but anyway, as you can imagine, if you've been tuning in, if you've been hanging out with us, you can probably imagine what we're going to be talking about tonight, and definitely something that I cannot wait to jump into, especially with the first day or two results of how things have been going. So, with that being said, I want to bring Eben in as usual, and kind of take it from there.
Yoink!
Yoink!
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm tired, but it has been it's been a year and a month and a week and a few days and hours and all of that good stuff. So,
like I just said, it's November.
It is November. Yes, November 1st. I think the days are flowing together for me at the moment. I can't remember now if we did a stream last week or if it was the week before. I think it was the week
I was
before.
just thinking the same thing. I don't even know, and I've like the last couple of days have been Friday, and then it's not Friday. I don't know.
I don't know. We either did one week either last week or the week before, but I think we were just getting ready to launch, and then Pre-Code Horror launched on Kickstarter on Tuesday. So we've been live for about 3 days and closing in on 150K in support for the project, and feeling very good about where we're at. So, as we talked about in the kind of endless tease ramping up to this is really the beginning of what we've been planning and working towards now for months and months and months. And as far as bringing this project specifically to life, it's been 2 years of development and kind of figuring out how to make it and putting all the moving pieces in place. And so I love it when a plan comes together, my friend.
Man, I'll tell you what, I got I know you can't see it, I'm bald, but I got little tiny hairs. They're standing up. I've got little goosebumps, man, from just from hearing the amount of money that's flown in just a couple of days. It's mind blowing, and especially this is coming from, and it's kind of been the same thing over the last several years. I mean, it's not like there's tons and tons and tons and tons of marketing and there is, but you know what I mean? We're not, it's not getting forced down people's throats like some things do. And to see the feedback and people jumping on it, and especially, I'm seeing people in comments and stuff that it's wow, I can't believe, where did they come from? And so it's just you've got people jumping in this from every angle. So it's not just, people that kind of knew Macroverse already. Yeah. And, from the Web3 side of things.
Quite the opposite, in fact, which is all, kind of part of this larger plan too. So, we really very intentionally, made this something that we thought would really resonate with traditional comics collectors and people that are, kind of the opposite of where we started, where everything we've done up until this point has really been trying to push the digital side of the comics industry forward, and then this is kind of the flip side of that, where as we've gotten some comments and feedback going I really wish there was a digital option. It's one of the more one of the few kind of comments that isn't just wow, this is awesome. I've had to say, quite against my traditional nature, going well, at the moment we're so focused on just the most incredible physical experience that anyone has ever had with something like this. Now, I will say, just on this show, the story doesn't end there, but as far as the Kickstarter is concerned, we're actually a pretty rare in the world of Kickstarter where there isn't a digital option, where it really is just all about delivering this premium physical, collectible experience for these books. And then the story will continue to unfold. But
yeah, no. So I mean, I definitely, there's some questions that I had, and
I'd love for this to be kind of a Q&A, AMA, whatever questions you got.
Anybody that's hanging out obviously can, punch in some questions if they have any questions or anything, or anything like that. But I think some of my questions were more focused around like production levels and each tier. And, so I mean, even on the lower tiers, there's several options, but do those like some sell out, or are you guys printing based on sales? Like, how's that?
Yeah. Why don't we, for anyone that is newer to this, or maybe hasn't spent a lot of time, picking through the campaign, actually, why don't we just walk through the campaign and the options really quickly, and then we can kind of get into the details.
Yeah.
And
I was going to say too, I don't know what you have that you can share, but I know last time we did talk, we just kind of announced, it was like a post announcement.
Exactly.
Because of the storms and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think we were going to go live on Tuesday when it went live, and things just always happen. We get busy, but since we've actually announced it, I know there's been a lot of graphics and images of the actual products out, and they look phenomenal. And
happy to share some more of that. Sorry, I'm just trying to pull up an easy link for people. So it's the Kickstarter page that I normally have up. Of course, I don't have up at the moment. So just let me grab this, and then I'll do a little screen share and we can walk through it. All right, here we go. So Kickstarter.com, of course. And then if you go to projects/Macroverse/precode horror, you will find the project directly that way. And I just wanted to throw that up here for easy reference on screen as well. So there we go. Finally, thanks for hanging in there with my fumbling. So I mean, just to back up for a second. So we basically honed in on two things. One is there is a whole number of catalogs of classic comics that are almost impossible to get a hold of and actually hold in your hands in a fashion where you would actually open them and read them and experience them the way that they were meant to be experienced. And, you can look across, comics from the golden age and the silver age, especially. So we're talking about things that are, 70, 80 years old in the case of this campaign. And so, number one, there are a bunch of these books which you can't even find reproductions of in any form. And so, the only shot you've got at even holding one is generally going to be one of the, graded, slabbed, copies, which are going to cost you anywhere from, on the low end, around 10 grand, and on the high end, as much as a couple $100,000. And you're not going to take that out and read it, even if you can afford to buy it. And so there's this whole catalog of material, which to me is really fascinating because it's such a snapshot on the cultural impact of this collection in particular. Paper or something, I'm not sure. But this catalog in particular is a moment in time where the comics medium, the art form, was kind of figuring out what it was. Like, this is the early days of comics. It's not the early days like Superman in the 40s, but we're here like just 10, 15 years later. And, this is an emerging medium, and now people are starting to like really push the boundaries. And so, we're dealing with material that is unregulated, it's uncensored, it's completely raw. People are really exploring like what this stuff can do, and this horror collection emerged where, interestingly enough, like it really speaks to the cultural moment at that time, people's paranoia, this Red Scare around communism, like some things that aren't that far off from here we are kind of, history rhyming, if not repeating. And one of the kind of tropes or themes through a lot of these stories is, the moral comeuppance that, people that do bad things get and handed to them. And it tends to be either supernatural or something that, you reap what you sow kind of stories. And you could take something like Black Mirror, the Netflix series, and say that that's kind of an expression of that, in the modern day, that kind of a lens. And so it's this kind of fascinating look at, again, sort of this moment in time, this collection of content that, number one, you really can't get your hands on, and number two, has more relevance than I think many people might think that it does, even to modern life. And so those two things, we got pretty captivated by. And as part of what we've been working on in the background for the past couple of years has been, once we kind of realized that this could be done, this combination of technology that we've developed, along with a lot of craftsmanship and artistry, and then we've had to build the pieces and the people on our team to be able to make these things not just as reproductions, but using the classic methodologies. So we're printing these on old style printing presses. We've sourced the as close to the original paper as we can, although I would say slightly higher quality, but still pulp, newsprint style paper.
It was funny because I saw a comment on one of the social medias on one of the videos, or one of them, but it was like, the guy's like, does that mean it was printed like this? Oh yes, actually, yes.
Actually, yes. So we're getting as close to the materials and processes as we possibly could. And so, I have to say, like, our team that's focused on doing the actual production work, like, there's a level of insanity and attention to detail around this, which it makes me proud personally, but also, like, we're really trying to push the envelope with what people think of as a facsimile, and this now kind of new publishing imprint for us, Authentic Editions, really speaking to, like, this is the authentic experience that is as close as we think can be created as if you walked into the newsstand or pulled these things off the spinner rack, 70, 80 years ago.
It's crazy because it's almost difficult to call it a facsimile. I mean,
honestly, we really fought that.
It's a reprint.
Yeah.
Like, facsimile to me just means like fake,
Honestly, like, I fought that for a while. We all internally, we were like, we want to just call them Authentic Editions, but we also finally realized, like, this is what people are going to understand very quickly, and then we have to kind of educate, why these things are different. So that's why we landed there. But, I agree with you. It's not the right term.
It's just, to me, it's almost just like it's a reprint. I mean, you're getting like you said, the authentic.
I don't even think of it as a reprint. I think it's a reproduction.
There you go.
Literally a production again.
That's kind of, I guess, what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
It's all the original, same everything. So I mean, and then you guys are smart enough to even put the smells in it and everything.
Yep.
It's just. To me, it's just mind blowing. I still cannot wrap my head around the fact that you guys pulled that off.
Well, that's what you're talking about. Is so we sourced the paper, we figured out the printing processes. We're essentially reverse engineering the original books. So part of what we had to do was get our hands on all of these books, which took some time and effort and a little sleuthing, a little secret spy wheeling and dealing to actually acquire all the original books. And then we essentially reverse engineer them back to the printer plates to be able to print them fresh, to print them new. Hey, some dollars just went up. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. So this is, the campaign page. I won't play the video, but Adam, one of my co-founders and longtime creative partner, put the video together for this. And honestly, I think it's one of the best Kickstarter videos. I am biased, but yeah, I think one of the best that's ever been put together. It's like
I was
really,
definitely going to say, I mean, not even just the editing and everything, but I mean the content and the history and just kind of explaining everything that led up to why this was done. I mean, it really is. It's informative, it's entertaining, and it's definitely makes you want to jump in on this. I mean, like it's to me, it's a great video for sure.
Well, part of what I love about what Adam did is, from the moment we identified this catalog, we became, both fascinated, and then the more we've kind of gotten to know about every book, like there's just this sort of very interesting moment in time, this sort of historical significance. So for me, this has become part commerce, building the brand, building the company, making this cool product. And then part of it is like an art preservation project for me. It's like, it really has become this kind of almost this feeling of responsibility of like, taking these things and making them in a way where they aren't just lost into the ether. Like Suspense number 3, which we're going to talk about, like there's, less than 10 copies that have been identified that are complete.
And that's what I was going to say. And how many of those are even readable?
None of them are readable because no one's going to take them out. I mean, that's that is the most valuable non-Marvel, non-DC book that is in existence right now. And a 1.0 just sold at auction for almost $90,000. And the previous auctions of like a 4 or 5 have been, well over 6 figures. It's crazy. And there's a couple of reasons for that. I mean, part of what's fascinating about this collection is that, and so I'll talk about the Frightening 15. Like these are the core 15 titles across a few different series from this era that we identified as kind of the most important or relevant, key issues. And so, we really wanted to bring people the opportunity to get the full runs of these series. And we do offer that here in the campaign as well. But if you've got to pick, like, I want a snapshot, kind of core collection, like this is what we could do to put that together. And so, it's Suspense number 3, which we just talked about. The Punch number 12 is probably the second most valuable and second most iconic. It's the skull with the shootout, scene happening in here. And then Chamber of Chills 19, which is the girl with the wine glass where you can see half of her face is a skull. Those 3 covers in particular are just absolutely iconic. That one was turned into a Misfits album cover. And each of these kind of has important artists or important stories that have played a role in kind of the ongoing evolution of the comics industry. EC Comics came along and kind of took over a lot of the horror genre as a result of and along with a bunch of this, and then kind of reshaped all of that. And then that turned into the Senate hearings, which had all of these pre-code books banned. And so there were literally mass book burnings, mass comic burnings, real true censorship for these comics that were blamed for corrupting America's youth. So here's Suspense number 3, this incredibly iconic cover. And one of the things we keep talking about is like they're KKK members and they're Nazis. You can't really make anyone more of a bad guy than that. But just I think this is just such a striking cover. The artist here, Alex Schomburg, who went on to become very well known in animation and in advertising arts, as well as other comics material. But just gorgeous. And it may be hard to tell in the screen share, but you get into the details on this stuff, and it's like there's a quality to what you had to do to create this kind of artwork at this time, which is just amazing. Because you got to remember, there are no computers. This is all painted by hand, and then with the reproduction capabilities at the time, which again, we're, kind of following along in the same methodology. Getting these kinds of gradients and tones is actually just master work. It is not something that, very many people could do. So here's, book burning. So this all led to the creation of the Comics Code Authority. And what it makes me think of, for anyone that kind of grew up in the 90s like we did, and you remember, the panic around music and, hip hop and heavy metal, and, all of that was blamed for, again, corrupting the youth. And so very much the same way, the comics industry got together and said, we don't want the government to, censor and manage the ratings around comics. So we'll create our own internal, board, our own internal guidelines. And same thing happened in music with the you remember all the stickers on your CDs that were, what was it called? The parental guidance, or sticker.
Do they still do that? I'm
not sure if they still do. I mean, just like the Comics Code Authority has also kind of become more optional, as the industry has grown up. But I remember that was a big deal I think it was all the way into the 2000s or even 2010s, where to drop.
I was going to say it's going for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, it's been in there for a long time. So, Frightening 15, we just talked about. And one other thing which I love, we had the chance to do with this, is by focusing on these collections, we also, these are individual issues. These are not, graphic novel collections. And so, again, wanting to kind of bring that time machine, put them in your hands as they were when they came out, kind of experience. There was no such thing as a graphic novel in the 50s. And so we created these kind of gorgeous box sets that you become the thing that you can display, that, goes on your shelf to kind of have this beautiful kind of thing that you can house these things, or that they come in. And then we thought we'd have some fun. So while we are the one place we broke the rules, our own rules, with being completely authentic to the originals, is we thought, it'd be really fun to do something that you couldn't do with these in that time, which is to give them some unique variant cover treatments. And so we created a set which is all fluorescent inks. Those look amazing when you start to see them. It's this kind of, day glow neon kind of effect for these core covers. And then, just because I am a child of the 90s, we could not resist doing some foils as well. So we've got silver foils, and then red foils, which are very unique and hard to produce, but extremely cool. And so the comps don't really do them justice, but I think people are going to be very excited about those when you actually get to see them. And then moving on from there, we also broke them out into individual collectors runs. And so if you want, all of Suspense Comics, you can get the whole run, which also comes in its own, deluxe kind of box set edition. These are the ones that are limited edition. So we wanted, kind of everyone to have access to the Frightening 15 sets. And then when we get down to the runs, we've made these a little more limited. So, 300 full sets of Suspense and each of the different issue runs. So this is, issue 1 through 12. Punch is really interesting. This always kind of fascinates me. I have yet to find a satisfying answer as to why they did this, but Punch Comics goes number 1 and number 2, and then they just never published 3 through 8. So like 3 through 8 just never came out. So it's like 1 and 2, and then 9 through 23. So that's the entire run of Punch Comics. There just is no such thing as 3 through 8, which I really want to know why.
Someone got really mad at somebody else, and they're like, you know what?
That's right.
Yours is out.
And actually, Punch is a really interesting, fun series, because this is a very good case of kind of a product of the era, where this incredibly talented team of creators, some very notable creators in this run, and they're kind of figuring out what the book is as they go along. So each of these tends to be an anthology, issue. There's multiple stories in each issue. And you can kind of see, hopefully, if you can see well enough in the thumbnails, like, punch number 1 is a little more of an action kind of superhero story. And then immediately punch number 2 is, very much crime and horror. Punch number 3 goes full horror. And then the rest of the series kind of jumps between genres to a degree. There's a little bit of superhero stuff in here, kind of very, very early superhero stuff. There's a little bit of comedy stuff in here. So it really runs this range of, you can kind of imagine the editorial team going like, oh, we've got an idea for I don't know, like a cartoony military guy and his hot girlfriend. Go do it. So really interesting, very cool series, and again, some just iconic covers throughout. And then Chamber of Chills, to me, like, it's not the most valuable comic, but a lot of these covers are just showstoppers to me. Like, this is kind of prototypical, EC Comics kind of Tales from the Crypt, kinds of stories, and the artwork is incredible. Again, this woman with the wine glass that you can see half of her face has just become one of the most iconic comic covers of all time. The zombie trying to kiss this other one. There's one with like the hand coming out of the ground. Like, this is just an incredible collection. So this is 26 issues.
Like, that's one of the things I'm most excited about, and that's kind of why I collect. And that's exactly what you just said a few minutes ago. It's like, for the preservation purpose. And for me, a lot of the stuff that I collect is 100% based on the cover. Yeah. And that's what I love about these is, like, the books that I collect are generally from, I'd say, like, the early 70s, through the 80s. Those are my favorites. But it's hard to catch them with bright whites or not faded or anything like that. And I would guess that with most of these books, it's almost impossible.
Oh, it's completely impossible. Yeah.
To get anything with, color. And I mean, like, it's just going to look so amazing. I mean, it's,
They really do. And I'll show you a detail as we scroll down the page a little bit. And I do hope everyone will go check out this campaign, if for no other reason than to just really take a look at the sample that we included on the page here. One other quick thing I wanted to mention, which we didn't really put in the details on the campaign page, but these are Golden Age size. So the run of and the run of Punch, they're both the traditional Golden Age size, which is a little shorter and a little fatter. And they're also 64-page books. So this is, almost 2.5, 3 times the length of your normal book, a comic.
I saw someone that was kind of like, saying like, I wish the price started lower. Yeah. And it's like,
I don't want to get into fights with people online, but we'll have a little conversation about why they're priced the way that they are, just so people can understand what they're thinking.
I personally feel like it's a little bit low for what it is. I mean,
we really have tried to make them as affordable as possible, but I'll explain a little bit of how we got there, just to have it for posterity. And then Weird Mysteries is another one, which is just, a bunch of really iconic covers, like this one with the brain getting pulled out of this zombie character guy's head. Another kind of just iconic one, and again sort of follows a little bit of your traditional kind of EC Comics. What's interesting about this one too is there's a kind of pre and post EC Comics era for pre-code horror, and you can see that what EC brought to the table immediately was the framing device of the narrator, the kind of crypt keeper, intro outro. And you can see kind of the moment across a couple of these series where that was so clearly a light bulb moment for some of these other books, with like, oh, that we should do that. And so all of a sudden, some of them start showing up with their own versions of these kind of narrator characters. And then I gotta admit, like, this is a little bit of my design sensibility being a little bit mean in the best possible way. We thought about, for those people that really just want to get everything. There's 2 versions of everything. There's this basically everything, which is all of the box sets except the variant covers. So this includes the Frightening 15 over here on the left, and then the full runs of the different titles headed to the right. I mean, you can imagine how cool this would look on your bookshelf. All the spines connect and create one big montage image. And so then the final version is the everything, which includes all the variant covers. And, you know, this is me admittedly being a little bit cruel in that, you know, if you get some but not all, you're going to have a hole in the middle of the spines that doesn't line up.
Now, the question is, on the other box sets, are they
Yeah.
the same individually?
Yeah, they are.
So you can create that at some
You
point.
can create your own, absolutely. So if you got, you know, one now and, you know, decide you want to get one later, I mean, the box sets. So to answer part of your earlier question, like, we haven't committed to a final print run at this point. You know, we are not going to print necessarily directly and only to the orders that we get through Kickstarter, but these are going to be relatively limited quantities for this first run.
Yeah.
And so, you know, our expectation is, you know, probably somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 copies, you know, of each book is probably in the neighborhood of what we're going to print.
Yeah.
And that'll be our first edition. So that doesn't mean there will never be a second edition or that we won't do other stuff with the collection over time. But this, you know, we really wanted to make the people that jump in, you know, with this first authentic editions release, with this, what we feel like is very special collection of material, that, you know, we keep it, you know, it's obviously very designed for collectors. And so we want to really make it, you know, as much about that as we can, while also trying to make it as broadly accessible as we can. And so that'll kind of lead back into the pricing conversation. We also did have a special offer for people that backed in the first 48 hours. So anybody that did gets a cool poster of Suspense 3. And then the stretch goals, you know, a lot of Kickstarter stretch goals are about adding, I don't know, for lack of a better term, I don't mean this in a negative way, but it's like, you know, a bookmark and a sticker pack and, like, you know, a bunch of additional stuff.
Yeah.
And we really wanted to focus on how can we just make what you're already getting. Like, you're getting this because you want the books, because you like the material. And so we want to focus on, let's just make the collection itself nicer and nicer and nicer. And so, you know, we do have some trading cards here, which we think is a fun, you know, the one kind of fun addition of taking, again, some of the most iconic covers, turning them into trading cards, which we also not 100% committing to this because we're working it out with the printer, but I think we're going to even do the trading cards at the size of the 1950s, you know, kind of trading card. So
that's cool. I was going to say too, like, what are those on?
And then the back of the cards are going to have kind of like we're modeling the cards a little bit on kind of early Marvel trading cards, where the back will have stats, you know, and this won't be stats for the characters, but actually some stats for that particular issue, and kind of what some, you know, little fun fact about it, and then some of the history of its you know, of its trading history, essentially, which would be kind of fun. And then from there, it's just about making the boxes cooler. So, you know, we've already surpassed some of these. You know, all the boxes will now get this, you know, really nice matte finish. The second one is to add embossing to all the boxes. We're about to hit the trading card number 3, and then we'll reveal the next upgrade to the box. But by the time we finish the campaign, if we unlock all the stretch goals, which we hope we will, then, you know, these box sets are just going to be something you can really just drool over.
So, I got another question about the box sets.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking about, in my mind, you know, like a typical box set and sliding books in and out, and then being hardbacked or hardcovers. Yeah. Or these, I mean, with these being like raw books, comic books, paper, how are those going in and out of the boxes?
Yeah, so they will all be bagged and boarded, first of all.
Okay.
So you'll receive them from us bagged and boarded, and we've done a lot of work with our fulfillment partners to make sure. Like, it's funny, one of the people we've been working with on this has run some of the most successful Kickstarter campaigns for comics of all time, and one of the things that one of his first comments to us is he was like, when you deliver this to people, like, if you're going to go down this road, he's like, be prepared that they must be perfect when they get to people's hands. So we haven't even talked much about that on the page, but it's like, we've really gone the extra mile to make sure that from the printer to being bagged and boarded to being, essentially assembled into each of these boxes. Like, that's another component of this, is there's a logistics, there's an army of logistics to put this all
I was going to say, so, I mean, how are those bagged and boarded? Is that done by hand or
it's done by hand? Yeah, it's all absolutely done by hand. So the books and the bags and the boards and the boxes and all the pieces, the trading cards, all the pieces arrive with our fulfillment partner. And then they are a very specialized organization for literally using white gloves to assemble all the different pieces, make sure that everything is in perfect shape. And then the collector's box goes in a box, which goes in another box. That's what actually gets shipped to you. So it's going to be a pretty awesome thing. And actually, I mean, I'll say this now, I'm really hoping people embrace doing some unboxing videos, because I think it's going to be fun too. So we talk a little bit about, this project and Authentic Editions, which is our new publishing imprint for this kind of material. This is a sample from one of our actual, files. And actually, you know what? I'll post a really, really high res version of this and link to it.
Yeah.
Because you can kind of see it on here zooming in, but it's amazing. Like, it is like taking it's not a magnifying glass. It's like your camera when you're photographing a bug, and it's just like crystal clear. Like, it's taking that kind of effect. And I hope you can see even in this size that it's like every bit of the coloring is the original dot patterns and the way that these were originally colored. And so it's, this is, again, not redrawn, not recolored. I've answered this question a couple of times, but like, zero AI involved in this. This is all just meticulous craftsmanship to bring this all back to life. And so, hey, there's me, and then here's the rest of the team. Adam Fortier, who is now officially our head of publishing. He's obviously been instrumental in helping us put all these pieces together. And then some people may know Bennett, and then Danny, who's now working with us as head of licensing. So that's a clue. And then I had a lot of fun making these little bloody hearts for you. So that's what the campaign is. It's really about these core collections that are the beginning of a bunch more that we have planned coming after this. I hope people will check it out. And hey, we hit 140K while we're on the stream. I love it. Thank you for whoever's backing while we've been talking.
What were your thoughts on that? I mean, all of you guys, like, I mean, first days out, like, how did you think it would go? Did you think it would be that successful?
I mean, I don't want to sound anything other than grateful for the backing that we've received, but we really, I mean, you never know till you put something out there how it's going to be received. But we had been feeling for months, like, these wheels have been turning for a long time. So like, when we first decided to do this, we were like, we think people will like this. We think this is a great thing to start with. Like, we're crossing our fingers, and we're kind of betting a big part of the farm on this being successful. But we didn't know. Like, we just had our kind of gut feeling and kind of some anecdotal evidence. As we've gotten closer, I mean, honestly, like, we've gotten more and more confident because we've seen the ramp up of horror as a broader, category right now in comics.
Yeah.
And then pre-code horror as just a subgenre of that, getting a lot more attention.
It's crazy, right?
The timing feels like it was absolutely meant to
say it's like it's meant to be. I mean, like pre-code horror right now is just the thing. I mean, it's what everybody's looking for. That or like golden age is coming back, like westerns and stuff. I mean, but that's like when I'm doing what I do and going through forums and stuff like that, like that's what I see, and that's what like people are talking about. So it's just it's amazing. I mean, it couldn't have fallen at a better time.
Yeah, exactly. And so as we started to see that ramp up, and then getting ready to push the button for the campaign to go live, and it was definitely still a moment of like, okay, here we go. And then seeing it get funded so quickly and kind of move as quickly as it has is it's not that it's not in range of what we had hoped for, but it's also just so gratifying. And I really do feel a ton of gratitude for everyone that's backed the campaign, for everyone that's helped put this together. Like it's been a true labor of love for quite a bit to get this off.
And this is 3 days in out of 29.
Yeah, so 3 days in. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, everybody's got plenty of time to still go in and back this, and I'm excited, man. I mean, it just feels so good to see it all coming into play and everything. I mean, I just can't wait to hold it in my.
I can't wait for people to hold it in their hands. I really, I don't want to overpromise, but I feel very confident like this is going to be something for people that like what this is. Yeah. Our intent really is to over deliver in every way that we possibly can. And our job is to, the way I see it is, our job is to really, as we kind of started this conversation, create a distinction between what people think of as traditional facsimiles and, what I think of as a whole new category of this type of authentic edition, reproduction.
I mean, I still just don't understand how you can even call it a facsimile, because it's the same thing. It's just newer. I mean,
yeah. Well, what initially fascinated me about this, and it's, as we started to go down this road, like I kind of knew this, but it's like we've learned so much about the history of comics, like, stuff that I thought I knew a lot about that I actually didn't know much about at all. And, the fascinating part of that is that even having some conversations with some of the biggest, companies in comics, no one was keeping anything in this era. Like all of this was disposable. So like the little bits of original art that are out there that, sometimes pop up on the auction houses as well, it's like, it's really few and far between. Even Marvel in the 60s, when things were really starting to crank, and you've got, the early days of Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four, even that stuff, the artwork was literally just piled up on the floor. I've heard stories from a couple of people where they're like, yeah, I visited the Marvel offices in 1964, and it's like piles of original artwork literally on the floor outside the elevator, like just on the ground, and like some of it disappeared. There's fascinatingly, the entire all of the original art for Amazing Fantasy 15, which is first appearance of Spider-Man, was donated anonymously to the what's the big museum in Washington that I'm blanking on. The essentially to the archives, to the National Archives. I can't believe I'm blanking on any of that. But it's like anonymously donated to essentially be preserved. And yet there thousands of pages from this era that just don't exist. So the only thing that we do have are the printed copies of the material. And because of that, when other companies have gone to do facsimiles, what they've often had to do, like if you look at Marvel Masterworks or, any of the kind of, places that you can find reprints prior to this kind of newer wave of facsimiles, and now what you're seeing with facsimiles is they've often been redrawn or touched up. They've been completely recolored. and then printed on modern paper. And so it really has a just very different look and feel than what was actually created, at that time.
It's definitely I would say for anybody that's not held a comic or experienced, especially an older comic, the difference is definitely like a smooth, glossy paper versus a rough. Oh man, just that old paper.
Yeah, it is. And look, I mean, it changed for good reason. And I was excited about it at the time. Like when people started to figure out how to do computerized coloring, like that stuff doesn't look good on the old paper.
Yeah.
But it's the right material for the art, for the craft, and so I think like the newer printing techniques, newer coloring techniques, like you want that kind of more high fidelity, richer colors, glossy kind of production. But for this stuff that was designed for the material, like you want the material. At least I do, and so far 430 people agree so far. So who will be 431? It's very fun. So yeah, I mean, this is just, it's very exciting. It's very gratifying to have this out, and the things are going to start happening a lot quicker now that we've crossed this first threshold.
Yeah. Well, I think, again, I've said this the whole time, but as stuff starts to roll out, man, I'm excited because I think I get my other books here in about less than 2 weeks. And then this, and I think as people start to get these things in their hands, like it's just naturally, like I think people are going to talk and the word's going to spread, and that will go many different directions. But I'm not one bit concerned or even thinking about secondary or resells or stuff like that. I'm more excited to see like what kind of doors it opens, and just in general, like where the brand goes as a whole. I mean,
well, I will say this: I am trained, and I really genuinely mean this. Like, this is not financial advice. These are 100% collectibles for the sake of making them for what they are. And if you go search on eBay for these titles, not just the originals, but any previous, what I consider, no offense to anyone, inferior reproductions, like photocopy reproductions, literally. You can find on eBay photocopy reproductions of some of these titles. It's a little astonishing what they're selling for.
It's crazy. They literally are like carbon copies. I mean,
they're literally like, I printed this at Kinko's, give me $80.
It's crazy. It really is. It's absurd.
So it is going to be interesting. Like I am pretty fascinated to see, like, we will not benefit from secondary market activity in this particular case at this point, but I am pretty fascinated to see, just what happens with that, because I don't know how people are gonna treat them in that regard. But I let me talk about price for just a second, so that anyone that is having that concern. There have really been two comments. Like, we've gotten overwhelmingly positive response to this across social media and from comics collectors and enthusiasts. The only two negative at all comments that I've seen from a number of people is, number one, wishing there was some digital option, which, again, I find it kind of funny.
It's just so backward,
isn't it? And then the second comment has been about the price. And so, I think there is where I can understand that from is we did start the opportunity to get this at $150. So there is no buy them as individual issues, or we decided not to go down that road at this point, because we actually think it's better for the collection to kind of tier it in this particular way and design this initial release as, here are your 5 options. So if you want to get involved in this release, these are the kind of 5 or 6 ways to do it. That doesn't mean there will never be any other options for those that, want to follow along. And I hope anyone that for whatever reason can't participate but likes the project will continue to follow along, because this is a literally 10-year roadmap that we have in front of us for Authentic Editions. So, this will continue to evolve over time, but these first releases we actually think is really important to focus on this particular style of release and for collectors. At the same time, they're basically the basic cost of an issue it breaks down to about $10 a book. And so, that is a little more expensive than your newest copy of, Spider-Man at the comic store. But it's a lot less expensive than, many other graphic novels, omnibus. I mean, anything else that's, even something that's 64 pages in the comic store is probably $9 to $12.
I was going to say, I've gotten some bigger books recently that are modern books. I didn't pay cover price, but they're listed $9.99, cover $10.
Yeah,
$10
exactly.
book. I mean, that's
And
normal. I think that's normal. That's what people are paying for new books.
Yeah. So I think when you look at it through that lens of like what's the cost per book, I think we're right in the sweet spot. I did as we were researching kind of how to price it and where to put it, and we also looked at what other facsimiles are there, and there's a little bit of an overlap. I believe they're out of the UK that has done their own facsimile versions of about maybe 15 of these titles. And they start at $15. And, I think when you see them side by side, I'm going to just go out on a limb and say that, what we've done here is a little more exciting. But still, that's, 50% cheaper than the closest thing that you can currently get on the market. So we really tried to bring them in at a place that was, accessible for as many people as possible. Understanding that, for some people, it would be nice to be able to pick one or two, specific issues, but for the way that we're needing and wanting to build this out right now, for us, that didn't make sense. It made sense to focus on the collections. And so over time, we'll also have some economies of scale around some of this stuff. And so as we talked about, like, I think the thing that's hidden behind the scenes, because we don't really want it to be the focus of this at all, is that there really is an incredible amount of logistical moving parts in the background behind this. So like what we've had to do and what we've had to put together to make this possible is not just, get the books, take a picture of them and button. It's like there's a incredible amount of work that has gone into creating them, reverse engineering them, all the print ready stuff that has to happen, then printing them, sourcing the paper, perfuming the paper, figuring out the logistics for this, which is it's taken us months to put the logistics.
Even acquiring the books. I mean,
acquiring the books, like, it's a whole production. So, I don't mean that to be defensive, but I do want people to understand, like, this is not just again, there's no just hit the print button on these. This is truly like something that has been meticulously crafted at every level, and we've done the best that we can as far as making them affordable. So I hope that helps. And at the same time, for some people, I know $150 doesn't work, and if that's the case, then no hard feelings, and please do continue to follow along.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, again, I guess not everybody's lining up to buy that many books at one time. But I mean, when you look at it book for book, and then not only, is it right alongside your modern day cover price, basically, actually you're getting more book, but bagged and boarded and in a box set. I mean, it just, I don't see anything wrong with the price at all. I think, maybe some people probably were hoping for single issues and stuff like that, but
that's been the main comment. And I can certainly understand, like, there are some people out there that, we have said on, in some of the comments are like, I wish I could just get like these three that I really care about. And I totally understand that.
So see how many people will break the set to get that crazy price on that one book.
And that's what I can't wait to see either. So I think no matter what we do for those people, I think you'll have a chance to get those few issues. But they might be more expensive. I don't know, but but I think that will become possible. But that aside, I mean, the excitement around this has really been incredibly exciting and gratifying, and it's been really fun to jump into the comments and talk to people about kind of some of the questions and kind of the share some of the excitement around this. It's been great. And you probably knew this, but it's been kind of fun for me to learn it. So I haven't really spent much time on Facebook in a couple of years, but that is where people like to talk about comics.
It's insane. It's literally my favorite social media now, which is it's almost embarrassing to say that. And that's like where I spend all my time. But like the Facebook comic book groups are off the chain, man, and they're like so active. And
it's all in over there.
Oh man, I'm telling you. And so that's that's where I spend a lot of my time, and really, especially now that you guys are working with physical books and stuff, it's like, man, I'm all about it. That's like all that's pre-code horror, like I'm telling everybody.
Thank you.
So it's crazy. It's absolutely, I mean, like I feel like Twitter or X for me has become really political and really still Web3 based, at least from what I get on my feed. And then I'm just not cool enough for Instagram. I'm trying. I went and got old somehow.
You'll just leap over Instagram. You can let your kids get you into TikTok. You'll see some dances.
TikTok's on a whole nother level. But no, like especially like buying and selling and trading and just like the overall marketplace of comics. I mean, it's really crazy what's going on Facebook, man. It's pretty cool. And then even compared to eBay and like Mercari and those other like kind of typical marketplaces, the Facebook marketplace has turned into like a really nice place for acquiring collections and bigger purchases. I mean, it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's been kind of a fun surprise to go like, oh, this is like really positive, fun, like like me hanging out, talking comics. Like, all right.
And so the thing is too now, and what a lot of people don't realize is that I guess like Instagram and Facebook had the merge.
Yeah.
And now you've got people that don't even mess with Facebook, but because they're posting on Instagram, it's automatically
cross posting
going over. And it's been like this crazy wake-up call for a lot of people I know that are like, man, I'm missing so much, so much that the response has been really positive off of their Instagram posts on Facebook.
No, it's very
cool. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I love it. Well, any other questions that you have as a surrogate for the audience or for yourself?
No, I mean, I think the big thing was just like, as we get, let's say 2 weeks in, if this thing hits like full blown, beyond every target anticipated, just, essentially like, is there going to be enough supply? Like, what I mean, like,
oh yeah, there's definitely going to be enough supply. We're not going to press until the campaign closes. We won't underprint, but we won't massively overprint either.
Yeah, for sure. I just, I know that there's going to be some people that are going to wait till the last minute because
for sure. Yeah,
and it's
that's how Kickstarter works. You get the rush at the beginning and the rush at the end, and then keep the campaign going through the middle.
Yeah. So I mean, inventory was one thing, and then I think the rest of it is very self-explanatory through the page itself. The video is just magnificent. The history behind it, everything. I mean, like it just breaks down everything so perfectly. And it's got Adam with his accent. And who doesn't want to see that?
Yeah, secret weapon. Pro tip for everyone out there: if you want people to take you seriously, find a friend with a British accent.
I love it.
It's very true. It's funny, actually. Little behind the scenes. So when we first started putting the video together, like it was not Adam's intention to be on camera. Like he put himself in there as the scratch track, and initially it was going to be me and Adam Fortier, our head of publishing. And then as we all started to see it, we were like, it's really should just be you. And then he was finally like, oh yeah, I guess you're right.
Listen, to me, it just worked perfectly. It just worked perfectly. Yes. But no, I don't have a ton of questions. I just wanted to make sure. I mean, I know that some people are, like I said, either going to have to wait or they're just, obviously sure. Not everybody's going to jump in and hit that, the full tier. Yeah. And even with those, I mean, I was thinking, well, maybe there's only going to be 100 or 50 of the.
Oh yeah, so actually, we didn't say that with the everything tier and the basically everything tier, like those full sets. We've designated 50 for the everything and 100 for the basically everything.
See,
and then you could still assemble them from the other components. Yeah. If you just like want to click the button for the full set, like I would definitely say jump on those sooner rather than later.
But so those are those in boxes?
So they're individual boxes, but they all line up to create that kind of master image across the
all right. So that was my thing. Is I was going to say is if you don't get the full collection, then you don't get the big box.
Yeah. No, so it's like this was fun to put together from a design standpoint. So when we had this idea, like this is one of the things that just as a designer made me very happy. And shout out to Morgan, who's the newest member of our team as of today, who also helped with a bunch of the graphics for this. So she and I worked on this idea of like, could we take some of these? We actually wanted to take the iconic images and use them for the spine images that all connect, but then also use some of the other kind of great cover art for essentially the front and back of the box. And then created this whole kind of dripping blood kind of theme throughout all of it, which I think just worked out so well. So with the boxes, I'll try to, so you can see like this suspense box, for example, you can kind of see the edge of it. Like this is actually 2 boxes. And so depending on how many comics are in the set, it determines, how many boxes basically. So these are Golden Age issues, each one 64 pages. So, we needed 2 boxes to have that number of pages basically. For Punch, it's actually 3 boxes. And so you can see like we're both using cover art. So each of the individual boxes has its own cover art on the front, and then slices of one of the most iconic images on the spine. And so when you
those smaller boxes make up the larger, they're not.
That's right. So this everything is not one giant box. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Lucky 13 boxes that all go together. So I personally cannot wait to carve out some shelf space to show them all lined up. So it's a fun.
How many books is that total?
How many books total? So if you get everything, which does include the 2 foil variants and the fluorescent variants, then it's 115 total issues.
No, that's amazing.
And if you get the basically everything, which is all of the books but without the variant covers, then that's 70 issues. So it's quite a haul.
Imagine that coming in the mail.
Yep. Yeah.
Like, exactly. Oh man. That's
why I want to see some unboxing videos.
Yes, especially on those bigger ones. Like
Yeah.
And just to see people's faces, because you know they're gonna light up. They're just gonna be like, "Oh my God!"
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I feel like people can unbox slabs and older books, and they're joyful, but like people have seen them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this is one of those things like nobody's ever gonna have like really
Yeah.
experienced it. So
And
everyone
that's
that opens
you know,
these,
I can't wait to see people's reactions because I think there's a bunch of collectors out there who are familiar with the covers but have literally never seen inside these books. And so,
yeah,
not only being able to read them, but some of the stories are it's funny. Adam and I were talking, a couple of days ago, because like, there's an element to this about the moral panic and the banning of books and burning of books and just there's a part of, I think, all of us, which is kind of like, oh, that's crazy, like overreaction, like, and then you get in and like read some of these stories and you're like, huh, like,
you're like, wow, these are
yes, overreaction, but also, would I want my 8-year-old reading this? No. So
but
at a time when these things literally were being sold to kids, you can, there's a gray area there, not to censor them, but just to go like, yeah, maybe we want to look at who's actually reading this particular material.
I mean, I will say, even post, like whatever you want to call it,
The comics code,
burning and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
Protesting.
Yeah.
Older books, Marvel, DC, like,
oh yeah,
content is, some of it's creepy and like
it's crazy. Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, and that's why it's so fascinating to me. It's like, as I've gotten into these and like been able to read them and really see, some of the choices that they made, like, you really can, number one, like I was saying earlier, you really can start to overlay like, oh, this story is about like people's fear of corruption or, fear of, communism, or, the different things that are kind of happening in the larger pop culture landscape and conversation. You can really directly see the commentary on that in a way that's more sophisticated than I think a lot of people not necessarily realize when you think about, this era of comics. And then at the same time, like, there's a bunch of these stories which, some of them are, just kind of like whatever, but many of them are just like really pushing something that is either creepy or grotesque or just like, wow, like, again, sort of like for the moral compass of the era, like, you can imagine I imagine the people, in the bullpen back in these days going like, what we should do? Let's make KKK Nazis and tie people up. And between the three lunches, they're like, yeah, good idea. But I mean, there's all kinds of like body horror and like, really,
and there's such a market for it. And the crazy thing is, even on those more modern books, I mean, there's still, I'd still say like maybe like Silver Age, but there's still a lot of, in that time frame, like a little bit post like Cold War and stuff, and you still have like Nazi symbols or Hitler or anything associated, and they have such a huge following behind them. And it's not anything that's like racial or anything like that. It's just, again, because of the time frame and the cultural references and stuff like that. I mean, they're very collectible. And I mean, it was different, I guess, at that time. And it's just cool, I got one a couple of days ago that, it had a swastika in the background, and it's like a little bit one of those, like, it's kind of taboo, but I mean, I'm not collecting it for that. It's like, I want to keep it because like this stuff was a piece of history.
Yeah. Well, again, that's why, like for me, it really has become like part, let's use this to bring this stuff back in a really cool way and, kind of do this expansion of the company. And then there's the other part of me, which is just like, this needs to be preserved in a way that, people can really see what it was and have these conversations about like why people made these creative choices and what does it mean and how's it relevant to us today. And I think it's you really can take something like Black Mirror, which I also love, and look at how that is reflective on today's, kind of concerns and fears around AI or, those sorts of things, and kind of overlay very much like a similar type of story, but just with different fears and concerns. I find all that pretty fascinating, and again, sort of shockingly relevant to this, cycle of history that we seem doomed to repeat. So, I cannot wait for people to get them in their hands. So we're pushing as hard as possible to have them in people's hands before the holidays.
Especially like now, you said it's a box and a box and a box, and I'm just imagining like the little Russian dolls or whatever.
That's so funny. We literally, when we were talking to the fulfillment partners that we managed to rope into this, they literally described it that way. They're like, so we're basically making a Russian doll. We're like, yeah.
Nice. Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's like what I see in my head now. And then like you get to the bottom one and it's just gold, like Pulp Fiction, where he opens the suitcase. That's right.
Oh, see, we didn't talk about that. Now we need lighting effects when you.
That's it. Yeah.
That would be awesome. Sorry, guys. It's going to be $15 book. We're adding lighting effects.
Oh man. No, that's what I see. That's so cool. I mean, I can't wait. And then, I mean, I don't know. That's one of those things for me. They'd be front and center. That it's like almost like a table piece. I mean, a little bit bigger, but I don't know if you remember a while back. I sent you some pictures of the big books where it was like all the artwork, and it's like kind of like that. Like you want to show it off.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's is lovingly described as shelf porn for a reason. Yeah, definitely want to show it off.
So, yeah. But no, man, I'm extremely proud of you guys. Like that, it couldn't be any happier to, have known you guys and be associated with you and just be standing behind it. Like it's one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
So. Thank you. Yes, very much appreciate that. And for anyone that is been part of the community for Macroverse for a while, I put it in our announcement on Discord. More details to be revealed early next year. You'll see the beginnings of this at the end of the year, and then this is like what you're going to see from us over the next 6 to 12 months is the epitome of slowly and then all at once.
So, I feel like that's the only way Macroverse does things.
It is, but now like turn the dial up to 11. So a little overwhelming, to be honest, in the best possible way, but it's just like the things that we've been pushing towards are all kind of happening. So it's good. So the point in there is that, if you're familiar with us because of Vogu or GSA or any of the projects that have been waiting for their moment in the sun, their moment in the sun is probably not going to be what it was thought of at one point, but there is a sun waiting for them to come and that will be coming into place around the end of the year and into the beginning of next year. So just to assuage anyone's concerns around that, this addition to what we do and the overall ecosystem is not a replacement. It is an addition. All of these dots do in fact connect. So as always, with that said, again, I really appreciate, everyone that's backed the campaign or even taking a look at the campaign. I hope, anyone watching this, I hope you'll go take a look at it. We're sitting just over 140K right now. We've got 10,000 more to unlock the next stretch goal. And
I definitely want to encourage everybody not only to check it out, but hit the socials and like and share, comment, everything that helps to kind of, get these these little blasts out there so that more eyes can see it. Because I mean,
even if this is not for you, but you think it's cool, like it actually makes a big difference just to share it. And, we really appreciate everyone that has or does. It's been fun to see people tagging other people, in comments on a bunch of the posts that are out. There's a lot of activity going on Facebook in particular, but also on Instagram. Really not very much on X. So, if you're on X and you're following us, hit some retweets. Real minor quick note on Drip House activity. If anyone has seen the last couple of drops from us on Drip, they do tie into this. That's not accidental. So I'm not going to say more than that right now, but that is not accidental. So if you have pre-code horror stuff from us on Drip, keep an ear out for how that comes back into play after the campaign as well. There's a lot of fun to come. I guess we can kind of wrap it up there. But Tiny, where do people find you if they want to connect with you or talk?
Well, I always say Discord. That's just the easiest, and I am notified always the fastest there.
It's true.
I think on Facebook I use my real name. I think I actually go by Scott Pierpont.
I believe you do.
I think I might be my real self. I'd have to double check that though. Like I don't even know.
No, you do. I've seen a couple of comments recently.
So you may not find me. I don't know. But, yeah, I'm on Facebook all the time now because of the community for physical comics and comics in general there. I mean, it's really super cool.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. So we're, Macroverse on X, Macroverse HQ, just about everywhere else, including Facebook and Instagram and Threads and all that stuff. I am also finding myself spending more time on Facebook over the past week or so and have been very much enjoying that conversation. So also my real name, Eben Matthews. I think I also do have my username at Ebenverse across everything as well. So feel free to connect with me wherever your favorite place to connect is. And if you tag me in Discord, I will also pop in and say hi and answer any questions, or, happy to dive deeper into any of this on any of the platforms. Again, just appreciate all the support so far. And it's going to be a fun few weeks as the campaign rolls on. And then can't wait to hit you with the next thing that we have in store after this one.
One last question, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I know there's 26 days or something left on the campaign.
26 days to go, yeah.
And it might be on there, but what's the expected time frame for production and
Oh yeah. So our goal, and we believe we'll hit this, we're pushing very hard for it, is to have these in people's hands for the holidays.
I thought I remembered you saying that. That's just mind blowing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there's a lot of moving parts and logistics that have to happen, but we've triple checked, all of the things that have to happen for that to be possible. And we believe that it will be possible. And if for any reason that slips, we are committed to being the most communicative Kickstarter campaign that you've ever been a part of. So, it's been fun answering and that's actually very true as well. Like if you're backing the campaign, feel free to ask questions or comments, on the actual Kickstarter page. Like it's been fun, answering questions and helping people out with the campaign there as well. And we try to do, an update, every day, couple updates every day, just kind of where we're at with the campaign. And then talking to Adam, my co-founder and creative partner, as we were chatting earlier today, I think we're going to start sharing some more of the fun of some of the stuff we've been working on. So we will share some like high res details of some of the panel pages.
It would be cool, man, for socials, at least for me anyway. I don't know about everybody else. I'm a nerd, but if you can get like pictures of just production and like how they're, actually.
Well, this is a little tricky because there is a part of this which we're not going to reveal.
Okay, I didn't know. I didn't know like if all of it's,
there
public information, but
I will tell this little behind the scenes secret also. Like in the first draft of the video, we actually walked a lot more through like the actual real production process. And honestly, that was my note back to Adam. I was like, we're gonna talk about this in my favorite way to talk about all the stuff we do, which is art, technology, and black magic. And that is so. What I will say is, I think I said earlier, like there is no AI involved in producing these, so it's not like we're just like running them through an algorithm or something like that. Like this is not that. And so everything is truly like it's hard for me to explain the amount of weird reverence that we have for this material, where it's like,
which is why I'm so curious.
I will say that some of the production team we're having to monitor them for heart palpitations, because you have to imagine at some point in the process we do have to handle all of the books. And so when there are some of these which are like old and valuable, and it's
listen,
a lot of care taken to bring this to you. Yeah,
I do not like handling expensive books.
Yeah, exactly. So there are specialized machinery and things like there's a part of this which we literally invented and built from scratch in order to be able to create this the way that it's created. And then there's a chunk of it which we're really not going to share, at least for a while, and is probably patentable, and so we're kind of exploring that as well. And then there's a chunk of it which is we've managed to put together the right people and the right team and the right partners to be able to do this in a way that is, I think, almost prohibitive. I won't say it's impossible, but it's going to be very challenging for anyone else to do. And I only know that because it took us a long time to do it. So yeah, definitely we'll share some of those things. I think what I really want people to start to see, because it, as we started to see our own internal tests, I was blowing my own mind, and I knew what we were doing, is just being able to take one of these pages and zoom in on a panel so that becomes a full screen and see the crispness and the incredible quality of the actual artwork. It's like I still, when I do it, I'm just gonna like, this is amazing. So
yeah, no, and it's the same reaction that everybody, and since our first stream about this, and you kind of showed one of the I think it was just a social media, like just a post of one panel, but I've been going to people and telling them and explaining like this is how it's made, and zoom in and look at it, and it's just same, like they're just mind blowing, that the detail and the time spent to make this stuff so perfect.
Yeah, no, it is very cool. So I'll do this. I'm probably just going to use the image that's actually on the Kickstarter, but I realized as we were looking through the page, like you can see it, but you can't really see it unless you can make it about 4 times that size. So I will post either a link or actually that image, so that people can really see just the fidelity of it. It's pretty shocking, in the best possible way.
Yeah.
It's good. It is good stuff. So appreciate you as always, hosting this conversation and, asking the questions. If more come up, I'm sure we'll be talking about this again for the next few weeks for sure.
Oh, yeah.
As well as some other stuff that's going to be coming down the road. Hope everybody had a safe and happy Halloween. This was a lot of fun to launch right in Halloween week. It seemed quite appropriate.
Well, it's so funny, man. Days have been going so fast, and we were supposed to stream yesterday, and I don't think either one of us really thought about it until hours before, and I was like, wow, like, that's not going to work. But I'm glad that we had a chance to kind of make it up, and I've been dying to get on and talk about this more, because I'm just so excited about it. Yeah. And everything to come after that, which I will get more out of you maybe next week.
You'll get more out of me. Yeah. I will say this: there are a couple of things that we will be inviting people to test and be a part of, kind of a early cohort of people that can kind of see some of the additional components of this. So if that seems like something you'd be interested in, probably the best thing to do is pop into the Discord and say that that's you, or tag me directly on social media. But we'll be putting together a initially pretty small group and then slowly kind of broadening it out as we release some additional things. But I'll be excited about that too. Tiny, I know you will be in that group. So that one is, we got one.
For sure.
Very good. All right, my friend. And to everyone out there, we will be back next week, most likely Thursday next week, around the same time. And if you haven't yet checked out the Kickstarter, check out the Kickstarter, say hi on socials, and we will see you at that time. And I am ending the stream. Click.